All right, quick question of the day. It deals with the game last night, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. 2 of the last 4 games, Blake Bortles has had under 200 yards. He hasn't had 3 touchdowns since week 6. He only had 1 TD last night, and it was a gift because Rashad Green, who we talked about on the show, ran a punt back to the 5-yard line and gave Julius Thomas a touchdown. Can fantasy owners actually trust Bortles as their playoff quarterback? For context, his playoff schedule is Indianapolis, Atlanta, and New Orleans.
The answer, I believe, is absolutely yes. I think that you can trust him. You saw in the game last night, I realize, and I'm not going to, unequivocally, he had a bad fantasy game. He threw 1 pick and 1 touchdown that's never going to get it done from a fantasy perspective. But he played well last night. He had, almost 250 yards. He was marching down the field. Every time they got inside the 10, Gus Bradley made back calls, and they didn't throw any red zone passes that could have scored touchdowns, but that's not what they always do necessarily, and I do believe because of the matchups, especially Week 16 with the New Orleans Saints, I believe that you can trust him for that matchup.
Problem is you got to get there. You got to get to Week 16.
Well, I'm not saying that you start him from here on out. He is still a streamer. I'm saying that you will put him in the lineup.
I think
on Week 16.
There's a large amount of people that have moved from Bortles the streamer to Bortles the starter every week.
That's a great point. Bortles is not an every week starter. He is a guy that is matchup dependent. Week 15 against Atlanta, the week before that championship week, I absolutely would not play him. Atlanta has a really nice cover 3 defense that I don't think Bortles is going to deal with well. I mean, you just have to play those matchups, but I'll play him in Week 16 for sure over most options.
Okay. All right. Let me see. I'm gonna check something here. Hold on a second. Delaney Walker had a good game last night.
Your start of the week was over 100 yards.
Yeah, I have to bring him up first because I was getting ridiculous amounts of grief over Dorial Green-Beckham because right before the game I said, hey, I'm rolling him out there. And so some people rolled him out there with me, and, I can take my lumps, right? Like Dorial Green-Beckham didn't have a good game. This was a product of game flow for a large proportion of it because they just wanted to waste the clock out because they had a lead until the last 3 minutes of the game. The stats on wide receivers getting targets and catches were ridiculous. There were 5 total catches by Tennessee's wide receivers. 3 of them were Dorial Green-Beckham. Only 2 in the second half, both to Green-Beckham. But Delaney Walker was the beneficiary of all the passing targets. McCluster had some before he got hurt. It just was. It didn't pan out. But somebody sent me a tweet and they said, Andy, you screwed me. I played Dorial Green-Beckham ahead of Devontae Adams.
Whoops.
Why did you do that?
Yeah,
I did not tell you to do that. Dorial Green-Beckham, I had him in my rankings as a wide receiver 3 flex play. That does not mean you go start him ahead of Adams necessarily. So it didn't pan out. It was a risk. I had to flex him over Aiken. I don't like Aiken's matchup. Had to flex him over Marvin Jones. That was probably a mistake. So it is what it is. The passing offense needed to be down to start targeting outside wide receivers, apparently.
Can I just say I am personally happy you started Dorial Green-Beckham. And
Why is that?
We'll leave it at that. Well,
you want me to lose?
Absolutely.